Frank Ocean fans, it finally happened. After more than a decade, Channel Orange is finally on vinyl for the first time ever. But at £77 shipped in the UK, was it really worth the wait? Welcome to the Vinyl Narrative, and we're going to get into a review of Frank Ocean's Channel Orange. So let's talk about the album itself first. When Channel Orange first dropped, it didn't just make waves, it changed the tide of R&B music as a genre. It's this very deeply personal album that deals with queerness, addiction, luxury and heartbreak, all kind of wrapped in this kind of lush like instrumentation and storytelling. And it earned Frank a Grammy at the end of the day, and critical acclaim and a cult following that are only going stronger by the year. And this pressing of Channel Orange, it's a big deal. The fact that it's never been released on vinyl before is kind of crazy, but it's finally here. And this was reissued through Frank's his own store called Blonded, and it sold out in less than 24 hours, I believe. I think it was originally going to be posted up for 24 hours, but I don't think it made the full kind of time frame. So just goes to show the amount of hype behind this record. And it followed that hotly anticipated reissue of his sophomore album Blonde, which naturally, that was off the charts as well. I didn't manage to secure that, but I'm really happy I managed to get this pressing. So let's get into the packaging of Channel Orange. Now, the first thing you'll notice straight off the bat is that this is a brand new cover artwork for the album. It's no longer the kind of thick kind of block orange colour with Channel Orange just in the middle. Frank's changed it up for this release, and he's just got this nice montage of shots of himself smiling from back in that era, and you've still got the original Channel Orange kind of double typeface text in the middle. And hopefully you might be able to see there in the text, it says about Frank Ocean. It's a blonded release and it's pressed at 33 RPM. All rights reserved to his blonded label. So I really like this cover. Originally I was kind of gutted that he changed it up, but this has really grown on me, this look. And it's also a nice thick gatefold cover. So on the interior you've got more shots of Frank. And it's I think this is actually a Stoughton tip-on jacket, but I believe it might actually be reverse board tip-on, which is kind of nice. And then on the inside you've got, hope you can see that on the camera, you've got orange innards on the sleeve, which is nice because it could have just kind of been plain brown cardboard or thick stock cardboard, but he's made sure it's orange on there, which is nice. That is that, and there's the spine there. So it's nice thick spine, as you'd expect for a gatefold, so it will stick out in your record collection. So this is nice premium stuff. There are, unfortunately, that is kind of where the premium kind of ends, because there was no printed in the sleeves with this, which might have been a blessing in a way, because it then meant that the vinyl itself comes in these nice kind of thick rice paper sleeves. It's pressed across 2 discs as well, so you get 2 of them. But, it's a bit of a letdown. You don't get kind of like a lyric sheet or, just maybe some comments about the album, some thank yous that I'm sure exist on the CD release. I'd have to dig it up out my loft to see what it's like. But yeah, it was a bit of a shame that wasn't included, especially for the price that we've paid for this release. But hey ho. Yeah, I'm really pleased that at least the vinyl weren't just put into kind of printed sleeves. They were actually given the rice paper treatment. And yeah, I'm really pleased about that, because that doesn't happen too often. A lot of the times you'll just get albums reissued and they'll be in, sorry, there's a nice view of the labels there. They'll just be in those like printed sleeves, and that's not great for the vinyl, to be honest, because it ends up sticking to some degree with static, and you kind of, every time you pull it out, it's almost like you're going to scuff the vinyl itself, which is then going to damage it over a long period of time. But there's a nice view of the labels, very minimalist, 1A and 1B. So on 1A we've got Start, Thinking About You, Fertilizer, Sierra Leone, Sweet Life and Not Just Money. And then on side 2, in terms of sequencing, we've got Super Rich Kids featuring Earl Sweatshirt, Pilot Jones, and then Crack Rock, and that's the first disc. On the second disc, in terms of sequencing, on side C, we've got Pyramids, Lost, and Monks, and what a 3-track run that is on this record. And then on the final side, we've got Bad Religion, Pink Matter, featuring Andre 3000, Forrest Gump, and then the end track. So yeah, lovely sequencing. We'll talk about a slight admission later on in the review, but that is the artwork. I'm really pleased with it. The only downside to it is there's no printed sleeves, no lyric sheet or anything like that, so that would have been nice to just have a nice booklet included with this to make it really feel quite premium. Okay, so let's talk about the mastering and the pressing itself. So sonically, this is a very solid pressing. It's mastered at Metropolis Studios, and from the runouts it looks like it's a GZ Media pressing, which might disappoint some people, especially for the price that you're paying. It's spread across 2 discs and cut, as we saw, cut at 33 RPM as well, which is absolutely the right move for this album, considering its length and the dynamics that are involved on this release. In terms of the track sequencing that we've gone through, it's really nice, but unfortunately there are a few omissions to this track order, so you might notice that I didn't talk about White. That's not on this pressing of this album for some reason, probably licensing issues. And then you've got tracks like Golden Girl, which were, I believe, a bonus track anyway, but that's also missing, probably due to licensing. So disappointing in that regard that we've not kind of got the full set of tracks, but to be honest, when you're listening through this album, you don't really miss them, which is strange. It flows really, really nicely, but I know a lot of people will be disappointed that they're missing off this release. And mastering wise, Metropolis have done a really good job of this. Thinking About You is really warm and emotional. And then you've got the absolute epic that is Pyramids. It's just as sprawling and as hypnotic as ever. Fantastic. Both kind of parts, because I've always seen that track as a part 1 and part 2. They're very textured. Frank's vocals sounds fantastic in the mid-range pocket. Very present, very textured, but they're kind of never like lost and swallowed in by the music, which is nice. They're out, they're kind of right in the forefront on my system especially. The only thing that's probably a slight downside maybe is that it could have done a bit more on the high end maybe, just to make it really sparkle, but to be honest, it's not a deal breaker. Still sounds really nice and just really good. It wasn't a rushed release. There's actually been some care taken with this mastering job. For me. So that's the mastering and the pressing. And as for it being a GZ pressing, GZ Media in the Czech Republic, it's actually impressively quiet, which I'm not used to from GZ Media. So you've got kind of tracks like Start, or some other tracks where it's really delicate and there's some very quiet passages. It's actually got really minimal surface noise, which I'm really happy about. There's no major pops or distractions, it's just the music. So well done to GZ Media on that one. They obviously had a really good source to work from, so I'm happy about that. And it's not their kind of usual compounds that, it can be a bit noisy sometimes from GZ Media. So really good about that. Now on to probably the biggest downside about this release. It's the price, right? It's probably the toughest pill that we've had to kind of swallow if you're a Frank Ocean fan. So this one, this cost me £77 to get it shipped to the UK. I didn't have to pay any custom charges, luckily. But yeah, that's not cheap, and that's kind of up there with those kind of like AAA 45 RPM double disc reissues from Analog Productions. And to be honest, this doesn't really compete with those. I don't think it warrants that price at all. I think personally, if this was £50 with £10 shipping, that would have been, still on the higher end, but far more reasonable and suited to this release. So, really annoying it cost that much money. It's sold out, so maybe there is that. It was a very, very limited run in probably the kind of low thousands pressings, maybe 3,000 total pressing, I'm not sure. He never told us how many he pressed of this. But yeah, from what I've seen, the kind of flippers are out in force already, and they're charging upwards of £100 on this. And to be honest, if we never get this again on vinyl, or if there's not another reissue or repressing for a number of years, that price is only going to keep going up, because this is a really nice package. There are some omissions from it. There's some little bits that could have been added to make it really, really premium, but it's still really nice to pick up and fantastic to finally own on vinyl. But I think Frank's fans deserved a much fairer price and just, easier access for everyone. Lots of people have been waiting for this, right? It should have been easily available for a bit longer than 24 hours. But yeah, maybe that's the nature of what Frank's going for. He likes that FOMO marketing stint. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just really pleased to finally have it, and I apologise to everyone, obviously, who couldn't get it or didn't want to muster up that money to do it. Yeah, I'm with you on that camp. It was a lot of money. So is it worth owning though? I would say it is worth owning. It's a piece of modern kind of pop and R&B history. But the pricing is obviously the thing that kind of probably put a lot of people off, and probably left a bit of a bitter aftertaste in a lot of people's mouths that Frank has kind of charged this much for this release. And the blonde reissue wasn't cheap either, so he's kind of grabbing the money there. But let me know in the comments, did you manage to get a copy, or were you kind of put off by that price, or did you just not hear about it in time? And ultimately, if you're a really huge fan, are you willing to pay resale for it? Let me know in the comments. Not that I'm going to be selling my copy, unfortunately, but would you be willing to pay that price? Because I think that's going to kind of help swing the market. If there are people who are willing to pay upwards of £100, the market's going to notice that and then probably start to just price gouge releases. So let's hope that's not where we're going. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching my review of Frank Ocean's Channel Orange, and I will see you on the flip side.